Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty together again. Welcome to Can Angels Fly? I'm Nancy, and today I'm here just to make a very short video. And this video is about Humpty Dumpty. No, it's not about Humpty Dumpty. It is about our current social structure or infrastructure, the institutions that help to create and mold our structure. For this video, I'm only going to talk about a couple that I usually point to. And the examples of these structures are Humpty Dumptys that are falling or have fallen off the wall are religion and education. During the course of this video, if I can think of a third, I may throw a third in, but if I cannot, I'll just do with the two, religion and education. For this video, religion and education are where Humpty Dumpty stands in. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, above all, religion and education. Humpty Dumpty, religion and education, had a great fall. It's taking place now. All the king's horsemen and all the king's men, politics, politicians, laws, etc., the consciousness of humanity couldn't put Humpty together again, which suggests that these institutions, religion and education, are structures that will never be reconstructed as they have in the past. We're in a sensitive spot, a crossroads of pentacles. That sensitive spot. Because traditionally, our education system, as well as our religious institutions, ran by certain routines, under certain regulations, certain guidelines, with certain rituals or doctrines, or whatever the case may be. And now, yes, they're still in place. They still teach the way they teach. They still say the same things they say, but the whole mindset of the people are changing, and that change is taking place because enlightenment is occurring. Awareness is upon us. This understanding, this clarity is a part of how God is attempting to put us on the right course again. If left up to man, the creators of these institutions, we would still be in the blind. So our awareness, our enlightenment is literally coming from the divine, the all, the creator. And it, whatever you would like to refer to it as, is moving to wake humanity up. And why is it so important for divine all universe to wake humanity up at this time? It is because our very souls hang in the balance. I believe that we are here in this realm, this physical world, this place, in order to get re-educated. I believe we are having an class experience, a true educational experience, and it's a time of repentance for whatever we may have done as souls. So here we are. In this realm, this physical realm, certain people gain positions of power and authority, for whatever reason, understood the system, knew how to work it. And those people came together and they tweaked the system. And they tweaked the system in a way that we who, me, you, and every individual in humanity during any given time period during the history of mankind were miseducated, misled, and deceived. And like I mentioned, left up to them, we would still be in that state of sleep and slumber, unaware that we were even being bamboozled. So, universe, God, all, however you like to refer to him, it, she, whatever, had to create vibrations, experiences in this world in order to wake us up. As I mentioned, this video is about pointing out, I think I mentioned it anyway, how particular institutions, in this case, we're talking about education and religious institutions, fail humanity, not just in the concept of deception, but it is um, um, the tricks or the tactics that were used to mislead the congregation being us, me, you, and everybody in humanity, anybody that ever existed. So let's start with the educational system first. How did the educational system um, fail us or mislead us in this physical realm in which we were placed in order to become re educated, to repent for whatever we might have done? I don't know that. How did education forsake us? And why? And from that, we come to understand why that institution is shattering or collapsing, at least its traditional structure is beginning to collapse, the foundation of it. Well, I'm going to just hit on the basic educational system, whether public or private. You in maybe uh, uh, what do you call it, like a daycare or a Head Start. Then you go to preschool, then you go to elementary, then middle school, then high school, and then on to college, and then on to graduate classes. And the ultimate outcome is anticipated that you will become a person that takes that educational journey, traditional educational journey, is that you will become a master in whatever profession you study. For me, it was art history. I'm gonna leave that alone because I get to cussing. Just some examples: becoming a doctor, a psychiatrist, a podiatrist. I think I spoke of in my last video. OBGYN, what do you call it? The orthodontist. Um, very particular fields of study. Um, Surgeons, veterinarians. Um, I'm trying to think of law. I was trying to think of different professions in which I can understand why a person cannot get to that particular position or that profession without going through that complete journey of that traditional educational journey. I can understand. However, this is the case in our world. There are millions and millions, if not billions, of people. And generation after generation, all of these people that have come, exist, and gone, or are still here, whatever the case may be, we have this, our, depending on where you're located, educational journey to a particular profession or arena in life. Everybody isn't built for those fields, number one. Uh, like me, when I first started college, I went to be a mortician. I wasn't built for that. It took me to get into the field, to start studying it, to understand that field wasn't for me. Then I went to, I started in aeronautics. No, I started mortuary. Then I went to aeronautics. That field wasn't for me. Um, then I went to where I am now, art history. Um, where I was, art history. Those professions were not for me. And just keeping with the examples I'm giving, my personal examples, Why weren't these fields for me? I personally traveled the traditional educational journey from preschool, Head Start, or whatever daycare you want to call it, elementary, what do they call preschool, elementary, middle school, high school, college, get to a graduate school. Why weren't either of those three fields for me? Well, when it came to mortuary science, during a lecture, I was shown images of babies that had passed away from different um, causes. During that particular lecture, I realized that field was not for me. When it came to aeronautics, at the time I was considerably smaller, but yet I was 25 pounds over the weight limit. And anyway, I just didn't fit the criteria. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get down enough to fit into that criteria. That wasn't the arena for me. And then finally, art history. Why wasn't art history for me in the end? I want to say something, but I just don't want to be offensive. Art history, what can I say? How can I say this nicely? Um, it, I don't know how to say it nicely. Um, my type of people usually aren't in that particular field, and based on my um, geological location and how can I say it? It just wasn't a good choice. Very informative, very entertaining, very enlightening, but um, it just didn't line up with who I was and am at the core. So all fields are not for everybody, and not everybody can even not every individual can fit into one of those professional brackets is what I'm trying to get to. So how did our educational systems fail us? They failed us because let's go back to the earlier years of education. As children become or begin to know themselves and begin to display their own fabulous self expression, sometimes we find artists. Sometimes we find people that, young folks that may have some type of challenges or difficulties in learning or in socialization. We may find in our young babies and young children different abilities, but not those abilities do not line up with the I'm gonna call it major professions. But yeah, nonetheless, they have abilities. So what am I trying to say? The educational system overall failed us because uh, there was not the avenue or the road to go down for people that had natural skills or abilities, um, or could be trained to have certain abilities. Like trades is what I'm trying to get to. Some people, no matter, let me see how I can say this. No matter who you are when you're born, you're capable of maintaining yourself. You're capable of contributing unless there is an extreme condition. There's something that each of us is good at. I don't care if you're born and you become a person that can identify plants or you have a green finger. I don't care if you know how to mix mud and hay and make mortar and bricks. I don't care if you know how to do hair. I don't care if you know how to cut hair. I mean, there is some feel between the beginning of education and the professional field. That in between sewing, being a seamstress, and see those were the like the older options that existed in the early 1900s, at least. I mean, even before that time, but trying to bring it up to the present. That, and I know in my last video I was talking about things sounding sexist, but women were prepared to be able to raise their children. We have young women now that don't even know how to raise their children or to commit to their children and motherhood. Women were raised to know how to sew, to cook. There are women that don't have these skills. Other people, just in general, whether man or woman, knew about roots. You know, that's where they get all the voodoo and the hoodoo at. No, these were root specialists or people, the men primarily knew about cattle and the wildlife and hunting and gathering. All these things were important, just as important as a person that can end up in one of those particular professions, you know. And why is it so important? Because before getting to that professional level, you got to get there first. You got to be able to take care of yourself. You have to be able to take care of yourself no matter what. You have the right as a human being to be, um, to master what you're good at, to master what you like. So I don't know if I'm making it make sense. That is how our educational system failed us by not having an option open to the majority of students across this world. It was always, we were always reaching for these major professions. Some that, like in my case, didn't even align with who I was and am from the core. I could have fell into a particular trade and been self-sufficient is what I'm trying to get. Not only me, but many others. It was something else I wanted to talk about relative to the how the educational system failed us. Oh, yes, I am aware that in certain school systems that the school system offered trades or what did they call them? I think it was trade school, vocational school, vocational school. Vocational school was excellent. I also attended vocational school for aeronautics. But my issue with that was I had to wait to get to high school. I couldn't even join in ninth grade in my area. I had to wait to 10th grade. Then you had to be selected. That strenuous, strict process to get into vocational school is unfair. Unfair. I was one of those students. I am a person that has to be taught. Do I have some natural abilities? Yeah, they're more on a metaphysical level, the spiritual level. So we know that our system did not make room. That's another thing. Our educational system did not make room for those that had the spiritual gifts, like myself. So here, um, let me finish my thought. So a lot of children that from the core weren't bred to make it to those professions, but had the more than enough power and capability and will to master a particular trade and enrich this world. Many weren't permitted to do so. So this is how the educational system also failed us. Now, of course, I forgot what I was about to say, but I'm going to think of it. I'm going to take this moment to think and meditate. The educational system, how it failed us, has failed us, and why is the structure going to fall apart? It has begun to fall apart. Why are there so many dropouts from school? Why are so many schools closing? Why are so many children suffering, having so many learning difficulties? The educational system failed us. So, uh, if I think of what I was going to say and I forget, then I'll bring it back up. So, what are we left with? We're left with having to reorganize our educational system. Seriously, this is where we are. Well, I know what I was going to talk about. I'm going back. I was going to talk about those that really didn't have the know-how, the natural abilities to master particular trades. I could learn, and I did. Or children that aren't reared or made to hit that high professional level of the surgeon, that kind of thing. The children, talking about the children that are like myself, that were like myself, that was more in tune with the spiritual side, being able to see, to know, to feel, to sense. There was no room when I came up at all for that to be acknowledged. Now I'm very confident in who I am, and that's because my mother was gifted and her mother was gifted. It's been generations. I know at least my mom, not her mom, no, it was my mom, not her mom, it was her grandmother. So I guess you would call it third generation, fourth generation, um, gifted. Due to that, the educational system failed me and other people like myself. Um, why is that? It was because our gifts and our abilities were not acknowledged. And by our gifts and abilities not being acknowledged, we did not have the opportunity to master them from a very young age, to be able to really be one with our abilities and the energies, and to know what man upon this earth already knew, because we have those that created the structure. They already knew this. They already had the labels, different things like that. Where a little black girl like me came along, my mom could share what she knew. Again, she was never appreciated for her gift except by her grandmother. But of course, she's the grandmother coming from cotton fields and stuff. It only lived so long and only could offer so much. So my whole thing is that for 3, 4 generations, we've been in the blind, literally, um, just feeling and sensing when it happens, as it happens, not knowing when it's going to happen, those kind of things, feeling isolated, feeling different, not understanding, being ostracized by others because we might pick up on something and then say it inadvertently. But there were others that were aware, that had labels, and there were institutions that existed on a higher level, of course, or in secret societies, of course. But the schools did not recognize uh, spirituality or the metaphysical world at all. That is why we are here. See, that's why universe, God, or however you like to address him, it, she, had to bring us to this place we are now of awakening. Because remember, our souls lay in a balance. And based on those that had the power, that had the know how, that made the labels, they seized control of this realm and manipulated it in a way that would benefit them here in this physical world. And at the same time did that, they were also condemning us who, me, you, and every individual in humanity that ever existed, that existed in the past, exists now, and hopefully will change that for the future. And so our souls had began to descend. We were supposed to be here to be re-educated, to repent for whatever we may have done at some point in time, but not under the constructs that they had devised. Now, like I said, this video is short, so I'm gonna try to speed it up. And now I want to talk about how the uh, religion itself has failed the people. I don't care what religion you are in, but I'm just going to speak about mine. Uh, I was what you may call a Christian. I call it a Baptist Christian. And I went to church, of course, as a kid. I'm raised in the church. Finally come out of the church for a little while early in my life. Then I go back and I'm in the church as a grown woman. And I remember, I just want to tell the story because I like telling the story. I remember sitting there in the church. Now, this is after I returned as a grown woman. This is about 5 or 6 years in. And it's around Christmas. Either it was Christmas or Easter. It was one of them. And I'm sitting there and they started singing and they started making an announcement about like maybe the resurrection story or the Christmas story. And I swear to goodness, I wanted to jump up and just start screaming. And why would I have done such a crazy thing like that? It's because for 5 or 6 years in a row, all I heard was the exact same stories over and over and over again. And they didn't make sense. And I was like, if I have to hear one more, I think it was Easter, one more resurrection story. If I did see one more resurrection play, that's what it was. I'm gonna pass out. I'm out of this place, and I blew the popsicle stand. I just like telling that story because that was my transition out of church completely. Yes, my beliefs still are with me. I just see them through a different lens. Some of it makes more sense now than it did when I was in the church. With that being said, I'm going to discuss how religion has failed us. Number one, we were here to be re-educated. It was potential for us to have heaven here on earth, or a reasonable state of existence, as we repented and got re-educated. But based on religion, we weren't able to. Wars and rumors of wars over and over again. Um, with religion as or in the name of God as the what do you call it, the reason for committing heinous crimes, all kind of things. I mean, when I can do a whole video on religion. Maybe one day I will if I really want to research, take notes. But cutting to the chase, just want to explore this part of uh, how religion has failed us, humanity, failed me. How? I'll start where I left off with education. Not even in the church. And I'll mention this as well. I visited, before leaving the church, I visited different churches. And by me having a considerable amount of education, I even took some studies in college to get an understanding about various religions. I also got to travel the world. These are all things I've shared on YouTube. And so I got to partake in other doctrines and religions by various means. And how did it fail the religion that was my concentration, is that it never acknowledged true spirituality. And I don't want to forget, I'll just say it never ever truly acknowledged spirituality. It was a lot of stories over and over and over and over again. None of them being physical in the physical world. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand not being able to ask the pastor or sister or something to make this make sense, explain to me, and not getting any answers. Everybody just dumbed down and dumbfounded and had no awareness. So spirituality. People like myself with gifts were never embraced by the church, never trained, never told that it's okay, that um, yada yada yada. You know what I'm saying? But instead we were ostracized and chastised is the word for speaking of such abilities. Interesting. I found that very interesting. Um, and so I sat there year after year listening to the same stories over and over again. And another thing that used to get me is when they would do the what do they call it? An announcement, read the oh goodness, what is it called? Read the mm, mm, mm. Oh my God, the schedule or something. Just to read the notes about what's happening. They would read such and such sick, such and such in a hospital, such and such shut in, sister something something and threw a hip out, brother such and something, somebody done lost their wife. I'm like, God dang, hold on, wait a god dang on minute. Like, year after year. Hold on. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Hold on. Everybody's sick. Everybody dying. People getting divorces. Hold on. This is opposite of what you're preaching. Wait a god dang on minute. So, where was I going with that? Because it was unbelievable. When I started to wake up, I'm like, I know. How is it that a major ministry or doctrine of the church is that there's healing? There's healing. Do I believe in healing? I do. But my belief in healing does not come from the church. Now, do I have the resources to heal? No. Do I have some? Yes, we all have some. You know how people say, watch your diet. That's so true. Have good hygiene. That's so true. Those kind of things. And to know how your body felt. Think about how your body felt when it was, or even if it is in the maximum health. You know how you feel all over, all over, all over. And if the time comes that you're supposed to explore yourself. And I ain't talking about touching and feeling on yourself, but I'm talking about literally feel yourself. Go in and feel yourself. If you feel something off, then you need to get help. You need to go to those professionals. That's why we like them. They made it. And we love them and we need them. But I got a problem with them too, because then we starting to talk about now they done made it up here. Now they selling help. They selling help. They selling help. Okay, but that's a whole nother video because that'd be way too long. And so it's just about, yes, we can heal. But I have a question. Now, this is just me doing some abstract thought and theoretical thinking. That new category in my on my YouTube channel is that, have you ever gotten to a, like, what does they call it, MRI machine, or had a CAT scan, or um, just different lasers and things like that? I always find whenever I can see the lighting inside of these machines that they have the most brilliant colors. Uh, example. What am I trying to get to? What am I trying to say? I don't know which machine it was, but I've seen like this beautiful emerald green, like laser cross section in some machine or some at some point in time in my life, and it takes me back. I talked about this on YouTube too. That's how the Bible speaks of what heaven is made of, and how the gates of heaven are made of pearls, giant pearls. And I researched all these gems and natural resources and stuff, and they all have healing properties. Even the pearl. The pearl is a natural antibiotic. So that means when you die, go through the gates of heaven, you are healed and made whole. Well, I was like, wow, getting back, keeping it serious and grounded. If our higher ups have come to discover that pearls are antibiotic, and to consume the coral, not a whole pearl, but maybe, um, what do you call it? Grain, what do you call it? You know what I'm talking about, where you compress it to powder, that kind of thing, and mix it up with something else maybe. That is an antibiotic. And so I started thinking about that green light. I know I'm jumping all over the place, just right away with me. That green light I seen in that machine that just looked like it was pure as emerald. What if the actual waves that they harness are filtered through like an emerald lens? And it's actually emerald, is what I'm saying, is what is healing. An example, I don't know, this is abstract thought and theoretical thinking, is that like people have chemotherapy, they have particular laser surgeries where it is precise. We've gotten that advance. And so I started realizing, like, these people know some things. And them higher ups, I am not saying the church no, but I'm saying them higher ups with them labels and those positions no. And the people that own the pharmaceutical companies and stuff, and all these people that want stuff harvested so they can do stuff with it, they know. that there is healing offered here on this earth, is what I'm trying to get to. And it's through the natural resources that exist in this earth. It's not coming from anywhere else. In this earth, in this physical body, the healing is here on this earth. So I'm going back. It is about the religion and the churches and the doctrine. Oh, you can get healed. You can pray yourself into healing. I hope y'all ain't get mad at me, but this is my truth. So I'm just sharing. If you will, just ride the wave with me a few minutes longer. No one was healed except a few that had a good insurance, that could get that medical treatment right away, and all that medical treatment and all that kind of stuff were made from the natural resources upon this earth. Yes, there is healing, but it ain't about praying. Not in this structure. It's about going to work, getting a good job, paying for the best health care in order to be able to access those resources that have been refined into something to help us. There's healing. And see, that's what I'm saying. Church or religion and churches were failing us. The preaching of it, but not making it make sense. Not making it make sense at all. So what the churches should have been doing is lobbying, or I think it's called lobbying, for people to get out to vote, to talk about these issues, to get things on the platform, yada yada yada, real stuff. Another way the church felt, I talk so much I forget. Um, how the church also felt is, and it's about keeping people in the blind. It was something I wanted to talk about where I know, okay, I'll give this example because I can't think of what I had planned on talking about. How has the church failed the people and therefore divine is seeing that the whole structure is shattered? Is that, well, I don't want to forget so many things. I should have wrote a list, but I'm not. Okay. Um, the church, early on, I talked about how the school did not acknowledge those with gifts or real spirituality. I opened up the church with that as well. When we start talking about spirituality and metaphysics, we began to deal with astrology and astronomy, those kind of things. But the church, remember, chastised and ostracized those that were interested or showed some type of tendency toward those kind of practices. Mm. Became black sheep, ostracized. The truth of the matter is, now I'm not saying all spiritual folks know, but if Mother Sucker went to what is it called? Not monastery, the religious school. I can't think of it. If they really a pastor or a reverend, whatever you want to call them, was educated in I can't think of the name of it, but as an education scholar, they became aware at some point in time that it was a monastery. What the name of that is? I can't even think of it. Um, that astrology was real, that alchemy was real, and these things and the knowing of these things and the mastery of these things will put power into people's hands. It will make us rich. And I'm not talking about like Rockefeller rich, but make us rich as beings here in this physical world, in the spirit, here for the purpose of repenting and becoming re-educated so we can make up for whatever we had done. No, they didn't do that. It was a secret. It was a secret. The first pastor that I saw um, that I like, that acknowledged the heavenly bodies and the messages being sent was John Hagee. I don't know if you know John Hagee. And I was just awed because that man was aware that either he was going to have to say what he knew or his whole ministry was going to fall apart. And so was his livelihood. He came on out and kept flowing preaching and flowed right on into it. Non-stop. I can respect him, I guess. Some delayed. some delay. But then he also had, I think he also had to work through some stuff because his father was a pastor, and so his father was probably traditional, and so John Hagee probably had a process to go through. So I can dig that, but I can't dig pastors that continue to try to preach the same thing and there's no power. That's another thing. The word of God is supposed to have power. Now, many of us in the church, there has been no power. You have witnessed no power. You may have heard of people being healed, but you ain't seen it. You know what I'm saying? You may have heard of prosperity, but you ain't seen it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. And so it's this um, becoming aware of what's really taking place or what's real in this world. What do I mean by that? Like I said, the church never acknowledged alchemy as a true art and a ability to gain wealth, health, and security. Alchemy is chemistry, you know, um, and the possibilities for such things. Another thing the church, many churches didn't do, they too is like the church and the school both failed many times in the same place. Just like the school didn't have trade options for trade, extensive trade, for students that would have desired that or done better than that there. The church itself, very few. I mean, of course, there's always a few, but at large, the church, you got this congregation. See, that's where we are now. We're back to the congregation at this time. That the congregation is made up of so many people, and out of those people within the congregation, so many have so many different skills. Some that have mastered their particular field, while under our um, current structure that's being destroyed, they mastered it. They learned something in particular. Now, the church um, and the congregation and the people in the congregation having particular trades have mastered particular trades, should have been teaching others those trades. Why? Why is all this so important? I know I'm going to forget something. It's so important because look at where we are now. Really, you know, I mean, it's been going on. I know it started when I was in middle school. The question was raised, what field are you going to go in? Because it is projected that technology will um, lead to a lot of loss of jobs, and careers and certain things. And it was true. That projection was 100% true. True. Um, so the jobs that existed is what I'm trying to get to. Uh, 70 years ago, most of them don't exist anymore. They have been transformed or are performed by AI or robotics or something like that, and that field is growing. Now that was the early stages of robotics and AIs. Now it's to a level of sophistication. I mean, now we got when the laser surgery, no longer always needing the hand of that professional. Teachers, we got this computer. It does everything. Teaches whatever we want. So a lot of different fields are being eradicated, and the people still are here. What are the people going to do? I'm gonna close this video up because it's gotten longer. Let me see. I'm gonna cut. I'm cutting. So yeah, you will see. You're gonna probably be able to see that I left out information because I want to cut it, make it quick. That in the near future, very very near future, with all the jobs being eradicated, people still here. People still need a way to take care of themselves, but there are an increasing amount of people, decreasing jobs, therefore decreasing money earning opportunities and the ability to live the lifestyle that you desire, for example. And what you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What you gonna do for a living? That's a question they asked when I was in middle school. What you gonna do for a living now? Mm. They're getting rid of what they call it, Social Security, welfare. I mean, they just hitting us. And why is that? Because they don't need us to do the work no more. We done harvested all the natural resources. They have learned to tweak the natural resources to benefit them and humanity. The issue is now we don't have nothing, well, no way to earn money. We decreasingly having less ways to earn money to buy into the use of those resources that help us reside upon this world. So how what am I getting to in short is that the time is going to come that I mean, let me stay with the video. How certain structures within our current or certain constructs within our social structure have failed humanity, and due to those constructs failing humanity, divine all is breaking those constructs down because they are not conducive of us repenting and becoming re-educated for whatever we may have done. And so God, all it, however you like to refer to the divine, is trying to put us on the right course, on the right course. However, there's still this crossroad. There's still this crossroad that continues. Oh, this video might need to go on and on and on and on. I'm just gonna start rambling. Um, it's this crossroad, finished crossroad, that we aren't going to stop moving um, and advancing in technology. It just ain't gonna happen. We came too far now. We spoiled rotten. But on that pathway, there's going to be less earning opportunities. We need new ways to earn money. If we don't, we have to adjust in some way because you still got to care for yourself. You still got to take care of yourself. Your offspring coming into this world still got to take care of themselves. Or what? Or what? Suffer? You know, this is serious. This is serious business. And so I get a little bit irritated with it's always happy. It's always no, it ain't always happy. It ain't always happy. That's how we keep getting fucked up down through the centuries, through the decades. We get messed up. We have to pay attention. And so we have this crossroads. Uh, One way to alleviate some of the ills that we may face, because we're not going to stop advancing toward technology, but you got to get with your tribe. You got to get what do you call it, an intern or something like that. And we have to train each other on the basics, those trades, so that we can sustain ourselves. When that full AI robotic system is in place in the next, I'll say, we're going to say 10 to 15 years, I really don't think it's going to be that long. Things are going to get tighter and tighter on us. Now, you might be a little safer the more professional you are, you know, like I said, um, doing or performing activities or tasks or responsibilities and duties that AI is not capable of being trained to do. Still, there are so many positions and fields that AI will be able to be trained to do. It's going to begin to squeeze us. And that's what's happening. Squeeze us tighter and tighter and tighter. Um, there's so many things going on in this world. So many things. Um, I'm gonna take this video a little further if you just ride the wave with me. Now, I was dealing with that educational system, the religious system, as examples of the constructs that have failed us and why it's happening, and what may need to be done. I think I said that. Now, I'm about to go over into some that's a little deeper. Evidence of what's to come. Evidence of what's to come is being laid down right below your nose. I don't know what's happening in your region, but in my region, we have chemtrails. Every day, all day long, gray skies. Or once the chemtrail stuff spreads out like a web, it begaps and you can see the sky crystal blue above it. Okay, well, that's taking place, but I'm not going there. I'm just kind of giving you where I'm about to go. I want to talk about my area's uh, energy provider. Understand that the energy providers, based on what I know, have a monopoly over a particular geographic area. Bad news. Bad news. But they say it's not a monopoly because multiple ones exist across the country. No, that's irrelevant. That's an issue. And see, those are the things that the churches should have been lobbying about, or the schools should have been teaching about, building fireplaces, the stone fireplaces, anything to sustain ourselves. See, we are falling up under the power and authority of corrupt people. Remember, those were the original ones with the power that created the labels and the constructs. And it was all to be able to take care of themselves and their offspring for generation after generation. And they have been some corrupt brothers and sisters. So we know that now. If we're going to continue to let them do that, we're going to have to pay the piper. But I was talking about the energy providers in my location. Not only is it a monopoly, the next thing is that they've changed everything, like the meters, to these like electronic remote meters, so they can turn you off when they want to, turn you on if they want to, at any given time. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about a structure that's starting to be squeezed because the jobs being are decreasing people. So many businesses going out of so many establishments going out of businesses, including major companies or franchises and things like that, going out of business, going out of business, going out of business. You know, just all kind of stuff is happening, and then we got the wildfire. All these things are shrinking the job pool, earning opportunity, working for somebody else, doing just your one little part. You ain't no master at nothing but that one little part, squeezing, squeezing. So uh, we have now in my area the energy providers, one monopolizing a particular area, and electronic switches for remote stop and start. They also have laid new uh, fiber optic lines, and so my whole point of bringing that up is that if you ain't got enough money because job pool is being squeezed, those opportunities, earning opportunities are getting smaller. You ain't got money to pay your bills. See, we need to get smart. We got to pay attention. It ain't all motherfucker. It ain't all sugar and cream. Next thing is that as those job pools start squeezing, getting smaller and smaller, but the people still the same. There's all these people out here. Everybody's scrapping for jobs. I want this job. This job pays better. Guess what? The amount they're paying people is getting smaller and smaller. Don't let them fool you because they increase minimum wage. For what? They increase minimum wage. If they increase everything else 10 motherfucking fold, I'm gonna be real. They increase it by what 3.5% or whatever the freak it is. You got hired, but they raised you get paid a little bit more, but they raised the price of everything across the border that much more. These are things that we have to be aware of. Ignoring them, yes, it's sad news, it's depressing news, it can lead you to be fearful, but I'm making this video to understand, to help you and myself understand why this current structure is collapsing and how the current structures, the rulers in this world of the current structure, are not going to go quietly into the night and release what they got going on because they got a good thing, don't they? And we have been bamboozled all through these years, and we helped them get where they are. This is the thing this is what we need to understand. Yes, it is kind of gloomy, it's depressing, it's scary, you know, but the truth is, we still have power, but we have to work together. And before we can work together, people have to be willing to look at the hardcore facts. Saturn is about, for real, the hardcore stern stuff, the responsibilities and duties. Either you and I gonna do them or they gonna do them. You know what I'm saying? And you get the benefit or whatever. If me and you do it, then we get the benefits of that work, of equal investment and commitment and interest. If we want to be lazy and let them do the work and work us half to death or to death, then whatever the outcome is or the benefit associated with that, we will reap that. And that's what that this Saturn in Capricorn is about. It's relative to our worlds. Now, yes, this is a terror channel, but I cover everything. Why do I cover everything? Because everything has to do with your life. Yeah, your life. Your man walking out because he got dang tired of paying bills. He ain't tired of worrying about it. He want to turn up. He want to enjoy life. He want to drive a flat car. Your woman walk out. She tired of being a mama. She want to be pretty. She want some eyelashes and some hair, and she want to be sported like a mink coat, but you can't because you're just going to work, paying the bills, paying the medical debt, having kids. All the things that take place in this world affect us. It's not all sugar and cream. This is reality. These things affect us. The church, the way the traditional practices of the church and the doctrines of the church that were misleading the people, I'll say, because they didn't say what it was, the truth was. Even if it was a little bit that they knew, they didn't say it. That's affecting your life. That's affecting your life. Um, the educational system, and it failing us. It affected my life. It is affecting other people's life. Had I known that I had the option to get a trade early on, I probably would have. Um, as I was coming up, I don't think it was a YouTube. Maybe a YouTube came along, but I didn't have a what do you call it, a community to talk with, to bounce ideas off of, to share what I was experiencing. Now it's here. I'm so thankful. But all of those years, well, we're here at the crossroads of humanity, and I just think some folk think I'm playing, but I ain't playing. I'm forever playing. I'm serious. Is that either we gonna do it the easy way and let those in power dictate our existence from here on out and our offspring's existence the way they want it to be. They have shown that they are so narcissistic. So guess what you're gonna get? Guess what your offspring gonna get? Or we can do it the hard way, and it's gonna be so hard because we're so divided. So many aspects of this life have or doctrines or practices, and it's just so much stuff, and that's the confusion, the madness. It's like the matrix. This world is a Rubik's cube, and it's constantly switching when you can't even see what's taking place, and that's what's been going on. Fortunately for me, I was a little more sensitive. It took a little longer because I had to work through the whole get, but had to slow that thing down and start seeing how all the parts fit together in order to see where we are. Well, first where I was, where I'm headed. Then I began to see where we are and where we're headed. Mm. Anyway, I'm talk so much I forgot what I was gonna say. I'm gonna come back and talk later when I think of some more. But we better watch it. We better watch it. We need to get together. When it's time to vote, we need to vote. We need to build things up in our communities. We need to take care of each other, stop bickering and fussing over stuff. What difference does it make if I'm black, you white, green, you purple, little fat and skinny? Guess what? When you're dead, you're dead. It ain't gonna even matter. It ain't gonna matter one bit.